Hello, hello, Pancake Dwellers, and welcome to another race report. Today we're doing 5 laps of the Innsbruckring, featuring the 45-second to 1 minute climb, the leg snapper every lap, and we're just going to jump straight into the action here. I'm racing with my teammate Evan Benoise. You can see him to the left of me, and it's fast off the gun. So 450 watts right off the start, and it's strung out. So you don't come into races with power up anymore, and we pass through the starting pens there, and everybody gets their first power up of the race. And I see behind me there's a guy on a TT bike, so he's going to be having a fun race, considering we're doing 50 kilometers an hour and I'm doing 4 watts, 5 to 5 watts per kilo during this opening section here. So this was honestly not the greatest race. There was what I can only assume is a bit of cheating going on, especially at the front of the group. We'll get into that a bit towards the middle of the race, and we'll discuss how Zwift can prevent cheating in the future and my take on the whole situation. But for now, we're just cruising in the group, waiting for the leg snapper to come. You can see there's a bit of a split in the back. The C's and D riders are being caught out by that, and that's to be expected. There's still a couple B's and C's in our group here with us today. So there's a bit of a gap opening here between me and the group. I'm not sure how that happened, but I'm going to have to do a bit of an effort here just to make sure that this group doesn't get away. So ramping it up to 380 watts up into the 5 watt per kilo range, just so I can get back into the draft here and cruise along before we hit the leg snapper, which will be the main testing point of this race. So we raced Innsbruckring last week during the KISS Community League race, and the first flat section we averaged over 310 watts for the first 10 minutes or so. So I was expecting this race to be a lot easier just because the 3-hour races are a lot less competitive. So we're fast forwarding here just till we get to the leg snapper when the action starts happening. There was a couple attacks here up this false flat, but 2%, you get a lot of draft here, so no one's going to really be getting away. And we descend and up into the cobbles coming up, and then after the cobbles, we turn left, go across the bridge, and then we're into the leg snapper. So we were going a lot easier than in the KISS Community League races. Today I was doing around 500 watts up the leg snapper, and in the KISS Community League races I was doing in the 600 watt zone. So a lot easier. You can see Evan flying off the front there. He's getting an interval workout in today. He's not too concerned about his race result. He's just wanting to do 45-second intervals. So he is succeeding in that. You can see ahead of me, one guy has used his feather power up, and there were a couple suspicious riders here. So this U Rinosh rider from the UAE was suspicious. I raced with someone with a similar name to him last weekend, and the guy averaged over 6 watts per kilo for over an hour and a half, which kind of suspicious unless you're a professional. And even if you were a professional, putting out those kind of numbers is absolutely insane. You can also see that his power profile is really weird. So he's either doing 10 watts or more, or he's just coasting, which is kind of weird. And he is also on a time trial bike. I'm positioned nicely here coming through that second roller right at the front of the group. And here's some guy at the front. He's also riding a bit suspiciously. And I'm just hoping that it kind of breaks up and these suspicious riders just go off the front and the rest of us can just race our race. But the problem with that is as soon as someone goes off the front, everybody else wants to get on that wheel so they can get dragged along and bag a result for themselves. So there wasn't too much recovery. It still wasn't as hard as the KISS Community League. We were riding kind of low zone 3, even got some zone 2 in there at some points. throughout this second lap. Evan is still in the group with me, and people are just kind of attacking off the front occasionally. And here, me and Evan kind of get caught near the back, and we have to put in a bit of an effort here. So you can see me 7 watts per kilo up that little false flat just to get back on terms. We're going to come into the leg snapper. This wasn't a big concern for me because the first time was so easy, and normally the first time is the hardest time. So I don't anticipate this to be any harder. So I did, I did think people were cheating here, so I was trying to let some gaps open up just so people who were cheating could just get let off the front and we could have a nice race with the rest of us. But that didn't end up happening. And you can see here this Rai Rinosh guy is going off the front here. And at this point in the race, I'm just praying that we can just let this guy go and then the rest of us can do our own thing and just ignore his result. And it seems like that's going to happen because the group isn't too motivated to chase right now. So we're just kind of cruising and letting him grow a gap. Me and Evan are talking this whole time. We have a voice chat going while we race, and we're speculating on if anybody is going to chase this down or if they've finally broken the group. And keep in mind, the guy, he's on a time trial bike, so him being in the group doesn't make a difference for him. But then here comes this 7.S guy and just sprints past us, and the peace treaty in the group is broken, and everybody wants to chase that and get back to the front of the race. I wasn't really feeling it, so me and Evan just kind of dropped off here and did our own thing the rest of the day. So since nothing really interesting happened the rest of this race, I'm going to spend the rest of the time just talking about my opinions on Zwift racing and cheating in general. So how can we reduce the amount of cheating that takes place on Zwift? So my first suggestion is some kind of vote kick mechanism. A lot of games have this, and essentially how this works is people who are in the game can vote to kick a suspicious player. There's definitely ways that this system can be abused. People can be kicking other people for tactical reasons, but I think the community as a whole is self-policing enough that this would rarely happen. And in addition to this, Zwift isn't that much more different than other games, and if it works for other games, why won't it work for Zwift? A second option is to modify how the cone of shame works. So Zwift needs to create a power curve of what's humanly possible, and anything higher than this power curve at any point should be deemed as cheating, unless, of course, you're a verified rider. And the third thing I'd like to point out is just regarding sandbagging. So if Zwift sees that someone is riding above their category limit during a race, they should automatically either be disqualified from the race or bumped up a category. I'm still not entirely sure which one would be better. And with all that being said, we're now at our last lap of the Innsbruckring. Me and Evan have just been riding around with this small group of people for the whole race, and we're going to go up the leg snapper one last time. Evan has a feather power up. He's planning on doing one last super hard interval up the leg snapper, and I'm hoping I can take something in the sprint. So here we are, up the leg snapper, and on the way down, I use my drafting power up, and I'm hoping I can get an arrow boost here. I just get XP, unfortunately, and we'll slow it down for the last 800 meters of the race. I went super early. I wasn't really feeling the sprint because I was kind of frustrated with the people cheating out front. So, being anxious, I just let it go 500 meters to the line. The guy behind me did have an arrow power up, which he popped at this point, according to Evan. So I was only able to get a 2 second gap, and I slowly let off the power. I realized it's not going to work. I'm hoping that Evan's just sitting on the wheels, having an easy ride, and that he can take the group sprint at this point. But neither of us had legs today, and it's just one of those things. So as soon as the guys come past me, I just let up the pedals. There's no point in going hard. But when we'll see the results, we can speculate on who was cheating and who wasn't. So there you go. The top 4 guys, none of them were in Zwift power. The big number that stands out here is Rinash UAE's 6.4 watt per kilo average. He was the guy on the TT bike. I don't know if any of these guys are malicious in their intent, but there's clearly something wrong, or they could just be that good. But what I suspect is maybe there's equipment miscalibration, in which case um, they need to sort it out because it kind of ruins the race for the rest of us if you have superhumans competing with the rest of us humans. Anyways, that wraps up my race report for today. I'll be back on Thursday at the KISS Community League racing hard as per usual, so make sure you tune in and like and subscribe.